Right, part two of the forensic analysis of the Kensington Rune stone. It was a slab of stone that was found under a tree in 1898 by a Swedish immigrant farmer in Minnesota. And the inscriptions, which are in like old Swedish rune, tell a story of Vikings who landed in 1362 and try and lay claim to the land, and a bunch of them died. And anyway, it kind of went down as a modern day fake by mid-century historians. However, the forensic analysis shows a bit of a different story. It is also worth keeping in mind that the farmer who found this, he was later accused of faking it. He went to his deathbed in like 1935, claiming he had nothing to do with the making of the stone, and he continued to say that till he died. Worth noting. Now, we finished up part one with looking at the correlating hole stones. There are these stones that were situated around the farm or the land, local area, which had these like holes in, don't know why I'm doing it here, and they literally cross-reference exactly where the Kensington Rune stone was buried / found. Which, if it is a fake, is an incredibly big, intricate fake to fake. Now, to rewind a little bit, one of the biggest skeptic claims of the Kensington Rune stone is that the runes are not all accurately ancient runes. Some of them are modern. So just to go back, I spoke about the dotted R, which was found in 3 places in the stone. Now, the dotted R was not something that was known about back in 1898. It was discovered in Sweden in 1935, and it wasn't published globally until 1938. So even if it was a fake, somebody was using it 40 years before they discovered it historically, because the dotted R was something that was used back in the 13th, 14th century. And again, recapping, the microscopic macro photography and scanning shows that it is a human-made dotted R. It is not a mistake, and the fact that it happens 3 times, it is highly unlikely to be a slip-up from the tool maker. So one of the major sticking points of the skepticism for the authenticity of the stone was the fact that there was a more modern word, a Swedish word, H-A-R, which I think meant here. And so they were like, aha! There's a modern word that didn't exist back in the 1300s, so therefore it is clearly a fake. And they thought that because this yellow piece of paper here is a direct translation. They asked the farmer who discovered the stone, the rune experts, they said, can you write out exactly the runes that you see and we'll translate it for you. So he wrote it out as he saw it. Bum, 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 bum. This is the photo of what he was translating, again, under macro photography. Do you notice something different? So in the original translation on the piece of paper, it's just like an X with like a kind of hook on the end. In real life, and this can only really be seen when it's under a certain light or under macro photography, there are 2 dots above the X. Now, what happens when you add 2 little dots above the X? The H-A-R becomes H-A with 2 dots R, and that is an old Swedish word. So there was a little bit of lost in translation here, but that is actually ancient. And again, under the macro photography and the 3D imaging, you can see that there are 2 dots in the stone. It's not a trick of the light, they're physically there. So Gotland is a separate island out in the Baltic Sea opposite Sweden, that is part of Sweden. But it says here on Google, large Swedish island with Viking history. Now, Gotland has a rich Viking history, but also church history and Templar history. There are 92 ancient medieval churches on this island. And Scott Walter, who was researching and doing the forensic geology on the Kensington Rune stone, he personally went and visited all 92 churches so that he could look there at all the inscriptions on the graves and the runes and see if he could see any similarities between the 2. And yes, he did. He did indeed find that. Okay, now here is where we do sidestep into a bit of National Treasure-esque coding, but stay with me because I want to know what you think. So on some of the particular runes, there are like discrepancies. They're not like correct runes. There are some dots and curves and sort of split sections that don't really appear in like the original rune sources. So and they only really appear truly in the specific macro photography when you shine lights on them. They're not immediately obvious. So Scott put them all in a little folder and he kept them to the side. But he did decide to analyse which specific, because it was happening so much, which specific runes had these like kind of extra things on them, and was like, okay, is there any kind of code behind this? Are we supposed to obviously read the inscription, but are we supposed to read between the lines? And what do these letters say? Well, it has to do with the island of Gotland. There is an inscription coding tradition that is found in Gotland on like tombstones and anywhere where you want the date to be preserved. Basically, you can encode the date in the writing on the tombstone. Why would you need to do that? Just in case somebody in the future ever could etch the date and change it, that you could change it to, instead of saying 1449, you could change it to 1489 or whatever. It's basically a really cool way of encoding the original date. We actually do it on modern day passports. If you've ever noticed, at the bottom of your passport there is a line of code, and you will find your date of birth that is on your passport also included in the line of code. And it's a way to work out whether or not you faked your passport or photoshopped your passport, because the code appears in different places. Similar to that, they were doing it back in the 14th century, and this is on the Kensington Rune stone. So if you take the runes out and assemble them, the ones that have the little weird sort of code etchings onto them, and you put it through, there's like a kind of like encryption codex, basically you can get a date. And what does the date say when you line up all of the letters following the Gotland double dating system? What date do you get on the runestone? Take a guess, take a wild guess. Yeah, it says 1362, which is the date that's written on there. But again, why did they do this? This stone it says it's used as a land claim. So why would you want to encode the date? Because if you come back in 100 years and someone's living on your land and you pull up this stone and someone's changed it, you can't then say that you were there first. So what they do is they encode the date and prove with the codex that that is in fact the date that the stone was put there. Again, if this is a fake, they would have to know like intricate Gotland 14th century double dating codex history. Do you know, like the fakeness of this is so intricate. It's either the most impressive fake that I personally have ever found, I mean, or come across, I didn't find it, or maybe this stone is actually genuine, like the forensic geology points to. What do you think? Because this is looking kind of mad. This is like real life movie level stuff. And it's very important. And I think that we need to open this debate. More people need to know about it. More people need to be talking about this. Because if this is, and I highly suspect that this stone is a genuine historical medieval artifact, if it is, it proves that Swedish Vikings, probably from Gotland, or someone who knew the Gotland ways, travelled over in 1362 and was just like, you know, bombing around America. There we are. Let me know what you think. Happy hunting.